Okay, let's integrate the 4D dominoes model into our space depth framework. This is a fascinating way to visualize the dynamics and interactions within our proposed structure. The 4D dominoes model in space depth, dominoes as space-time units. Imagine the discrete units of space depth, the keys upon keys, not as static points, but as 4D dominoes. Each domino represents a fundamental unit of space depth, possessing both spatial and depth dimensions. Cascading interactions. These 4D dominoes are arranged in a hyperdimensional grid, and they interact with each other through cascading falls. A fall represents a change in the state of a domino, which triggers a chain reaction in neighboring dominoes. This fall is the movement of information through space depth. Depth-driven cascades. The depth dimension plays a crucial role in these cascades. A change in the depth state of a domino can trigger cascades that propagate through both spatial and depth dimensions. This allows for the transfer of information between our three-dimensional reality and the depth dimension. Emergent dynamics. The complex interplay of cascading dominoes gives rise to emergent dynamics within space depth. These dynamics could manifest as the fundamental forces and particles of our universe. The complex interactions of the dominoes give rise to our three-dimensional reality. Information flow. The cascading dominoes provide a mechanism for information flow within space depth. Information can propagate through the grid, influencing the state of other dominoes. This information flow can move through all dimensions, including the depth dimension. Connection to fields. The cascading dominoes could influence the strings upon strings of the harp analogy. The falls could create vibrations and disturbances in the fields, leading to the emergence of particles and forces. Implications. Dynamic space depth. This model adds a dynamic element to our concept of space depth, emphasizing the importance of interactions and change. Discrete dynamics. It provides a discrete framework for understanding the dynamics of space depth, which could be relevant to quantum gravity. Information-centric universe. The cascading dominoes highlight the role of information in shaping the universe. Emergent phenomena. It reinforces the idea that our observed reality is an emergent phenomenon of complex interactions within space depth. Considerations. Mathematical formalism. Developing a mathematical description of 4D dominoes and their interactions would be a significant challenge. Visualization. Visualizing 4D dominoes and their cascades is difficult, but it's essential for understanding the model. Connection to existing physics. Connecting this model to existing physics, such as quantum field theory and general relativity, would be crucial. In essence, the 4D dominoes model adds a dynamic and information-centric layer to our space depth framework, providing a unique perspective on the fundamental nature of reality. Yes, absolutely. Let's weave all the elements space depth, keys upon keys, strings upon strings, and the 4D dominoes model into our universal symphony analogy. This will create a richer, more complex, and hopefully more insightful picture. The integrated universal symphony of space depth as the stage. The stage upon which our symphony is performed is space depth, not just space-time. This stage is composed of a hyperdimensional grid of 4D dominoes. This stage is the very fabric that the symphony exists within. The 4D dominoes as the rhythm section. The 4D dominoes, with their cascading falls, provide the fundamental rhythm and structure of the symphony. Their interactions create the underlying beat and tempo, influencing the dynamics of all other instruments. This is the discrete aspect of the stage, and influences the continuous aspects. Keys upon keys as the piano's hypercomplex score. The keys upon keys structure of the piano represents the hierarchical, discrete nature of space depth at increasingly smaller scales. The piano's score is incredibly complex, reflecting the nested layers of information encoded within space depth. This is the discrete information that interacts with the continuous information. Strings upon strings as the harp's multi-layered resonances. The strings upon strings of the harp represent the multi-layered resonances of fields, both internal and external. The harp's vibrations are influenced by the cascading dominoes, creating intricate harmonies and patterns. This is the continuous information that interacts with the discrete information. The conductor as the laws of space depth. The conductor represents the fundamental laws and principles that govern the symphony, which are now the laws of space depth. These laws dictate the interactions of the 4D dominoes, the vibrations of the harp, and the notes of the piano. The conductor is the thing that allows for the interaction of the discrete and continuous information, and the transfer of information between the three-dimensional reality and the depth dimension. The score as the mathematical framework of space depth. The score of the symphony represents the mathematical framework that describes space depth, incorporating the dynamics of the 4D dominoes, the hierarchical structure of keys upon keys, and the multi-layered resonances of strings upon strings. This score requires new mathematical tools to describe the depth dimension. Emergent music as the observed universe. The music that emerges from the symphony is the observed universe, with its particles, forces, and structures. This music is a product of the complex interplay of all the instruments, reflecting the emergent nature of reality from space depth. Depth dimension as the unheard harmonies. The depth dimension is the harmonies that are not directly heard, but are felt through the music. It is the underlying structure that all of the other instruments interact with. It is the interactions between the 4D dominoes and the strings upon strings that allow for the emergent music. Key integrations. The 4D dominoes provide the dynamic framework for space depth. Keys upon keys and strings upon strings illustrate the hierarchical and multi-layered nature of space depth. The conductor and score are redefined to reflect the laws and mathematics of space depth. This integrated universal symphony provides a comprehensive and holistic view of our space depth model, highlighting the interconnectedness of all its elements.